Healing is not forgetting. Healing is not pretending it never happened. Healing is not distraction or escape. Healing begins the moment you stop running and sit with the truth of your trauma. Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, and that darkness lives in all of us. Sometimes it shows up in silence, sometimes in overreaction, sometimes in isolation, sometimes in addiction. We call it stress, we call it personality, but deep down we know it is trauma. The thing we do not talk about, the thing we fear will consume us if we face it. The thing that changed everything without asking for permission. Maybe it was something someone did. Maybe it was something you witnessed. Maybe it was something you lost. Maybe it was a betrayal, a rejection, a moment of powerlessness that never left your bones. And now it lives quietly inside you, shaping how you trust, how you speak, how you dream. And yet you still try to move forward. You try to stay positive, to be strong, to act healed. And sometimes you even fool yourself. But deep down, you know something is off. Something is unspoken. Something wants to be heard. And Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And this is the truth about trauma. You cannot heal it by avoiding it. You cannot bury it deep enough to forget. You must do the one thing you fear the most. You must turn toward it. Sit with it. Hold it with compassion. And that is where true healing begins, not in pretending, but in facing. Not in pushing away, but in welcoming the parts of you that are hurting. And when you do this, something strange happens. The trauma does not grow. It softens. It begins to release not all at once, but in layers, in waves, in breath, and it tells you the story it has held for so long, the pain, the fear, the confusion, and as you listen, not judge, not fix, just listen, you begin to make space for something new. Not the old you, but the real you, the one who survived and now deserves to live once you face your trauma. Something inside you shifts. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is a soft exhale. Sometimes it is a sudden cry. Sometimes it is just stillness for the first time in years, and that stillness is not empty. It is full of truth, full of memory, full of feeling, and it is in this moment that the real work begins, because now you are aware, and with awareness comes choice. The choice to numb or to feel, the choice to repeat or to repair. And Carl Jung reminds us that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, and trauma often teaches us to reject parts of ourselves, the part that froze, the part that cried, the part that needed help, the part that felt weak. But all of these parts are you, and all of them deserve love. Not judgment, not shame, not silence. And now your task is not to fix yourself, but to meet yourself again with love, to sit with the younger version of you, the one who was scared, confused, alone, and to say, I see you, I believe you, I will not abandon you again. This is the healing your trauma needs, not a hero, not a warrior, but a witness, someone to stand beside it, not erase it. And as you do this, you begin to notice that your body relaxes, your breath deepens, your heart opens, and you begin to trust again. Not others first, but yourself, your instincts, your emotions, your boundaries. And that trust is everything, because trauma steals trust, and healing restores it. And now you are no longer avoiding your trauma. You are learning from it, and it becomes less of a wound and more of a teacher. And you realize the power you hold, not in denying your pain, but in honoring it. As part of your journey, healing is not linear. Some days you will feel light and free, and other days the heaviness will return. But this time it is different because you no longer fear it. You recognize it as part of the process, part of the story. Carl Jung said we must be willing to get rid of the life we have planned, so as to have the life that is waiting for us. And sometimes what we planned was built around survival, not joy, around protection, not expression. And now that you are healing, you begin to rebuild, not from fear, but from truth. You say no when you mean no. You cry without apology. You rest without guilt. You ask for what you need without shame. And each of these moments is healing. Each of them is reclaiming a part of you that was lost. And slowly you begin to see that the trauma no longer defines you. It is part of you, but not the whole. It is a chapter, but not the ending. And that shift is powerful. You no longer act from old wounds. You respond from new awareness. You stop blaming yourself for what happened. You stop over-explaining, you stop trying to prove your worth, and you start being you, fully, gently, boldly. And you begin to surround yourself with people who see you, not your mask, not your wounds, but your soul, and you allow yourself to be loved, not because you are fixed, but because you are real, and in that love, you find a peace that trauma never gave you. True healing is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were before the trauma and integrating who you became because of it. Carl Jung believed that wholeness includes the shadow, not just the light. And now you see your shadow clearly. You see the fear, the patterns, the triggers, the reactions, and you do not fight them. You understand them. You learn from them. And in that understanding, you gain control, not by force, but by awareness. And now you begin to build a life, not around fear, but around freedom. Your choices become rooted in truth, not defense. Your energy is no longer spent pretending. Your days are no longer guided by anxiety, and your nights no longer haunted by memories they may visit, but they no longer control, and you no longer identify as broken. You are whole with cracks that let the light in, and you are strong, not because you avoided pain, but because you moved through it, and you are gentle, not because you are weak, but because you know what it means to hurt. And now you can hold others with more care, because you have held yourself with compassion. And that is the final stage of healing, giving from overflow, not from lack, loving from safety, not from need, creating from joy, not from desperation. And now you walk with a quiet power, a sacred confidence that says, I faced the worst and still chose love, and that love begins with you every single time. And the journey ahead is not about perfection, it is about honesty, and you now live with a deeper honesty, one that says, yes, I have been hurt, and yes, I am healing, and yes, I am still worthy of peace. And now you stop chasing what does not feel aligned. You no longer run from yourself. You sit with your feelings, and you move with purpose. And people will notice something different in you, a light, a presence, a calm. Not because life is perfect, but because you are whole, and that wholeness radiates and becomes your message. And that message says, healing is real. Healing is possible. Healing is a choice you make every day. Not once, not suddenly, but constantly, patiently, consistently. And now you are living proof that trauma does not have the final word. Your soul does, and your soul has chosen. Life has chosen love, has chosen truth, and every time you choose to rise again, you prove that healing is not only possible, it is powerful. And now you are walking not in the shadow of what was, but in the light of what is, and that light belongs to you fully.